Morning, everybody. Thank you for coming back. So you all made it back safely. I hope we got you back to wherever you were supposed to be last night. I mean, back to the river mill. And I hope you enjoyed yesterday's activities as well. We have another full day ahead of us, and I think you're going to find today is going to be even more interesting and informative than yesterday was. However, before we get started with anything, I think it's worth our time to give thanks and blessings this morning for the breakfast and for the day. Danny Deeth is here to give our invocation, and I want to ask him to come forward now and do just that. Danny?
All right, good morning. Let's pray together. Great God, we are thankful for the rain, for in it you will make all things new. And we would ask likewise that as we gather to celebrate the many joys and celebrations related to Columbus, you also grant us the courage to stand for those who cannot stand, to be the voice for those who have no voice. We remember yesterday those that we saw, the homes that we saw, the places that we saw, Fox Elementary School, and ask your blessings for all of them, for they, as we, are all your children. So bless us today. Help us to feel the prompting of your Spirit to continue to make this a special place to live and work and be. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Danny, thank you for that. And again, thank you all for being here. And I want to welcome also those of you who were not with us yesterday. Thank you for coming. Again, you're going to see a lot of good things going on we've got in the community, and a lot of things that need some direction and guidance from us as we go forward here. But just understand that we're hoping that the ones that were on the trip with us yesterday you're taking copacetic notes. Because there will be a test later. Sometime in the very near future, we want to try to invite you back again. We're not going to do another day with you. Don't get excited. But we want to come back and get some feedback from what you saw and what you heard and where you think we need to go. We'll be announcing that here very, very shortly involved with all that. There are a lot of things you're going to hear today. Like I said, we're going to talk about economic development here in just a little bit. We're going to hear from Fort Benning. We're going to talk about development as a whole. Peter Bowden is here to talk to us about community branding. Then we're going to get on the bus and take another tour, and we're going to go through the area in South Columbus today. You're going to see a lot of things that you probably never thought was in Columbus, and probably wish it was never in Columbus for that matter. But you're going to see some things and hear some things, much like you heard yesterday, the things that we need to be addressing as a community and as leaders in this community. About where we want to go and how we want to get there, or anything else. We're going to eventually wind up at the National Infantry Museum for lunch. We'll hear from Westville, and we're going to have a riverfront update from the Bradley Company today. We're going to talk about South Columbus projects, and we're also going to talk about, it's kind of our wrap up this session for the afternoon, it's dealing with what's coming up in terms of capital projects in this community and what we are hoping to propose and hoping to hear from you about what real needs are in terms of capital improvements as we go along. We hope to get you back here no later than 4:30. There's a good opportunity that we may get back a little bit earlier than that, but just know that that's the time frame we're dealing with. So with that, I want to ask our mayor one more time to come up. He's already told me he has about a 30-minute presentation he wants to give, which is not possible by him. But please welcome our mayor, Skip Henderson.
Well, Rick laughs because I'm the only speaker that gets a standing ovation every time because I only talk about 2 minutes. No, I just wanted to take a chance to welcome you guys back, and I got to tell you how important it is that you came back. We understand, we get completely that this is a very, very difficult thing to ask our residents to do, and that's to give up 2 days. And really out of a short week for those of us that took Columbus Day off. So the fact that you have committed to coming back and continuing to take a look at this community and doing it through sort of new lenses with a real focus. I don't know if you're like me, but I mean, we went down one street, and I drive. Richard Bishop and he drags me out, and we drive around just looking at different parts of the community. And we went down a street yesterday that I'd never been on. And to see a house decorated for Halloween with the kid, just know that the kids are in there excited about what's coming up. And right next to it looks like a dump. I mean, like people have just dumped trash there. So you've got people in these communities that are struggling every day to try to make their piece of the world better. And by us being able to take a look what's really working well, and then contrasting that with things that maybe need some attention, we really have an opportunity through the energy of this group right here to make a difference and have Columbus be what we see it as in our mind's eye. So I'm just so grateful that you're back. I can't let an opportunity go by without lifting up the volunteers that put this together again. They did such a great job, and I wish y'all would start off by warming up your hands. Give them a round of applause one more time. Take lots of notes. The intention of this is not to look back in about 2 weeks and say, that was a pretty cool trip we took. We didn't go anywhere. It's to get back together. It's to have some discussion points, and it's to really try to identify some action items that we can move forward on. Mike Edmondson was not here yesterday, I think, when we announced that he had joined us from the school board. Valerie Thompson, our newest city councilor, is here. We've got a table full of counselors right here, Councilor House, Thomas, and Allen. And Councilor Crabb, I think that's all. Are there any other elected officials? Well, we're glad that you guys have made the commitment to be here for 2 days as well. So thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Please note the breakfast bar, you want to call it that, is open still. If you just got here and think you missed breakfast, you have not. We want you to enjoy breakfast and go from that. Okay, so I think we're ready to kick off our day here and get started. And so everybody just hold on to what they got, and let's see where we go from here. I want to introduce to you Brian Solito, who is the Executive Vice President of Economic Development for the Chamber of Commerce. Many of you already know Brian, and so I hope you'll listen to him no matter what because of that fact. Brian, though, is one of those guys, one of those front guys for us that looks for prospects and tries to bring economic prosperity and jobs back to this community. And I think he does a fine job with that. According to this little thing in our booklet today, he's been working in the field of economic development for 15 years. And his direct work has led to the announcement of more than 70 projects locations or expansions, resulting in the creation of more than 5,000 new jobs and $600 million in capital investment. That's a pretty good resume right there, Brian. Brian's going to come talk to us about Economic Development 101 and targeted growth. He is also bringing some friends with him, and I'm going to let him introduce those. It's the panel as they come. So please welcome Brian Solito and his panel.
Well, good morning, everybody. I'm so excited to be with you this morning. And I'm the lead act, and I've got my entourage with me. And we are going to kind of have a hybrid. I'm going to give a little bit of an overview and presentation, then we're going to sit down and have a little fireside chat with Jessica and Ben and with Miles. We're going to get into some of the topics related to economic development. Specifically, we're going to talk a little bit about workforce development and matchmaking and talent and kind of all those kind of terms and terminology. We're going to talk about entrepreneurism. We're going to talk about starting your own business with a guy who's started 3 of them. So for those of you that don't know me and I don't know you, I grew up in Columbus. Somebody asked me yesterday, said, did you grow up here? Where are you from? I said, well, I grew up here. I was 6 years old, grew up here. I often tell stories that when we were kids, we really didn't come downtown. We knew there was a river there, but it was, dammed up, and it had textile mills on it, and what a difference 40 years makes. I truly love Columbus, and I love the opportunity of what I get to do and show off Columbus to people who are maybe visiting here for the first time or companies that are considering locating here. I call it the Seeing is Believing tour. I said if you can get people to come to Columbus, and then we show them Columbus, and a lot of times they don't want to leave Columbus, and that's exciting for me. So I'm going to take a little bit of time, just kind of set the stage, just so you kind of know the players. So I do work for the Chamber of Commerce, as Rick mentioned, and been in economic development for 15 years after a 10-year career in television broadcasting. And they said, hey, how does a television broadcaster become an economic developer? And it's the short story is I wanted to get out of TV and looked at maybe doing public relations or community affairs or marketing or something like that. And somebody said, hey, they're hiring for a project manager in economic development down at the Chamber. And I said, well, I've never managed any projects before, and I don't even know what economic development is. And they said, well, go down there anyway and talk to them. And lo and behold, they hired me. And I think the reason they did hire me is because what we do in economic development is less transactional, but more relational. And you'll hear me talk a little bit about that as we go forward this morning. Since the name of this event is The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, I thought I would watch that 1966 movie, but I didn't have time. But I did watch the trailer. It's about 3.5 minutes. I was looking for a little bit of inspiration this morning, talk about economic development through that lens of the good and the bad and the ugly. I really didn't get any inspiration from that trailer. But I did get some inspiration over the weekend. Yesterday, I got back. The reason I wasn't with you yesterday is I just got back from Indianapolis. It was the site of the International Economic Development Council. It's their annual conference, happened to be in Indianapolis. And that's really where I got my inspiration to tell you and talk with you a little bit about the focus of this morning. And since we were at the home of the Indy 500, the title of the conference was Driving Growth, the Race for Talent, Innovation, and Place. And I want you to think about that during the next 45 minutes or so. Driving growth, that's what we're all about. The race for talent, innovation, and place. And the message that I want you to remember, if you only remember one thing in the next 45 minutes, is that I believe, and some of you also believe, and hopefully all of you will believe after we're done, that we can no longer view economic development as just recruiting the next big company to Columbus. Economic development used to be when utilities and railroads, sometimes real estate brokers would bring industries into the city or different locations, but it's really evolved from there. Site locations were once upon a time chosen to help companies cut costs. They were looking for short-term ROI, but now aging demographics have made talent attraction a big issue. Companies are now also focused not only on ROI, but environmental social governance. Look that term up. Environmental social governance. It's not that jobs and capital investment are not important. Jobs and capital investment are still key performance indicators. But when we ask, what does a healthy city look like? Some of the indicators are obvious. It's good jobs, it's good schools, it's good and affordable housing, it's good transportation, it's good leadership. See, I'm working in that good, bad, and the ugly. The good. The successful cities, and frankly, the successful regions, will be involved with activities related to transformational change. Instead of strategic planning, we need to really call it strategic doing. We'll need to be involved with mapping our assets, which includes our people, identifying roadblocks, what's working, what's not working, and focusing on finding ways to use all this data that's out there to tell our own unique stories, and then how to repurpose those stories to create future stories. We've got to change the narrative instead of why Columbus to why not Columbus. Columbus is creating opportunities. Columbus will continue to build on an already vibrant downtown. And you'll hear in just a few minutes that in Columbus, we're rekindling our entrepreneurial spirit. Columbus is pro-business. Columbus will soon be a premier meeting and event destination. We're working on attracting new companies to Columbus, no doubt about it. We're also working to grow and expand existing companies. We're pursuing special opportunities for growth and diversification, and we're being an advocate for economic growth. In fact, those are the 4 focuses of Columbus 2025 in the action area called Targeted Economic Growth. Now, the good is that over the past 4 years, we've attracted new companies to the Columbus region. The Dechang Seat Company, Global Call Center Solutions, Hamilton Relay, Concentrix. Just this year alone, we also worked with Norwegian Cruise Lines. We helped start a new startup with a brewery on 6th Avenue. But we need to be able to celebrate the momentum of continuous success that we're having outside of these traditional economic development projects. That's how we are going to expand our economic development bandwidth going forward. We're also going to continue to work on attracting new companies to the Columbus region using new ways and new techniques. For example, we're in the middle of a LinkedIn campaign right now that is based on telling stories of Columbus as a STEAM community. We're using a firm to help us identify companies in the fintech sector, aerospace and defense, and food manufacturing, sectors in which we have a competitive advantage. We want to then tell success stories. We're also working with our state partners to make sure that Columbus remains visible and viable. Our prospect pipeline is healthy, and we expect to announce several new companies within the very near future. The good is that over the past 4 years, we've helped many existing companies grow their businesses and expand their footprints. Companies like Pratt & Whitney and Anthem Blue Cross and Blue Shield, Hostess Brands, Heckler & Koch, Incom, PathTech, Ram Hotels. Now, with the good comes some bad. Yes, we have experienced a few closures over the past few years. We're talking about companies like NCR and Exide, Remitco, and the recent downsizing of Gildan Yarns. These are the ebbs and flows of the business cycle. But we'll continue to be engaged with our local companies, and we will talk with them about expansion opportunities, identifying their challenges, and working on solutions. We're also building some new relationships with companies like TSYS and Global Payments on the heels of their merger. And we're very optimistic that the signals that we're receiving from them are very positive. The good is that we've been pursuing special opportunities for growth and diversification. We've been partnering to create opportunities in our vibrant uptown. You have seen the recent news championed by the mayor and stamped by the city council about the Marriott expansion and what it will do to create more business at the Convention and Trade Center right here in the building we're in. And the excitement that surrounds that project to make Columbus a premier meeting and event destination and boost what is truly economic development, the hospitality and tourism sector. We're also focused on unique opportunities related to Fort Benning and robotics. And as we pursue other opportunities for growth and diversification, if there is a bad, it is that redeveloping some of our special opportunity areas like City Village or the Liberty District or even South Commons and Golden Park, those will be challenging. But we're encouraged by some of the discussions that we've recently had, especially as it relates to the Chamber's recent visit to Charleston. The good is that we continue to be an advocate for economic growth, not only in Columbus, but in the region. The bad right now, if there is a bad, that there are limitations on opportunities for growth in our surrounding rural counties, especially those without broadband connectivity and a full complement of utility infrastructure. The good in Columbus is we've got the infrastructure. We've got available sites. We've got some available large industrial buildings, all of that have utilities and road networks. We have economic development funding, and we can offer competitive incentives. The bad, if there is that funding is not endless, and it can have an impact on some of the work that we're doing out in Muskogee Technology Park as it relates to site development. The ugly is that a lot of the sites out in Muskogee Technology Park are what I call topographically challenged, and that means that the site development costs can be relatively expensive. Again, we can no longer say that economic development is just recruiting the next big company to Columbus. So let me switch gears. I hear people all the time, with all due respect, politicians, community leaders, average citizens, they say it would be good if we could get more jobs. Well, the good is if you do a quick Google search, jobs in Columbus, Georgia, you will find literally thousands of job openings in the Columbus area. I looked 4 days ago. On Indeed alone, there are 3,143 jobs available in Columbus. And you're saying, yeah, but those are low-paying jobs. Per capita income in Columbus is $25,354 a year. There are over 2,000 jobs listed on Indeed that start at $30,000 a year. The median household income in Columbus is $45,500. There are over 1,400 jobs listed on Indeed that start at a salary of over $40,000, and nearly 700 jobs that start at $60,000 a year. Getting workforce information to potential and existing employers has become a priority as companies look for talented people and quality of life. And no matter where you are in the U.S., there aren't enough people with the right skill set. Columbus 2025 is working on filling those gaps. I would suggest to you that we don't have a jobs problem. What we have is a connecting qualified people to those jobs problem. And it's not easy. We're going to spend some time this morning talking about an innovative way to connect and facilitate the communication between employers, whether they're here or whether we're going to attract them here, and the workforce that's either here or we want to attract here. And it's called a talent hub. So Jessica Ferreter is a leadership development consultant and coach. She has a very extensive experience working for corporate, government, and military sectors. Her previous roles include learning advisor at AFLAC, chief of staff to the U.S. Ambassador of Australia with the U.S. Department of State, executive officer to a two-star Army commanding general, and public affairs officer at the Pentagon. You think that's an impressive resume. Jessica is co-chair for Columbus 2025's 21st Century Workforce Committee. So in the vein of talking about matching not only employers with potential employees, whether they're here or whether we're recruiting them here, I've heard this term called the talent hub. And I want you, Jessica, to talk a little bit about what is a talent hub.
Good morning, Brian. Good morning, everyone. So a talent hub is really an online resource. It functions, or will function, as a one-stop shop to recruit and retain talent in the region. The site will ultimately aggregate content that already exists in the community. We're not recreating information. There'll be links there. And what we really wanted to do, what was vital to us as we established what this talent hub would look like, is we wanted to ensure that it met the needs of everyone in this room, of the educators, the employers, the talent that's coming to the region. We've worked with various people in the community, top employers, educators, and young talent through YP to find out what they need. And so what came to light were these very common themes. As people look to come to the region, as they want to stay in the region, they want to know, well, what are the jobs here? What do the big companies look like, the small companies? What does it look like to play here? What is the downtown area like? What is uptown, North Columbus like? What are the neighborhoods like? How do I get involved with civic organizations? And so ultimately, as we took all the feedback from these vital parts of the community, it came down to these top 5 categories: work, live, play, connect, and learn. And so what we're looking for is this one-stop shop that as an individual looks to relocate to Columbus, they have that why Columbus. They have this place where they can see what they need to see to move here. What does it take to bring their family here? And so really it's just this very beautiful site, it's an amazing Columbus site that just highlights all of the unique things that we have here to offer in Columbus.
I really think that this is the ingredient that's missing, especially, I mentioned Indeed. Really, it's just a job board, and it's got 3,100 jobs on it, and it's like, okay, but there's an Indeed site for every city in America. What we need is, what are the jobs, but what is it like to, as you said, live, work, and play here? So many times, HR directors will say, we're having a hard time recruiting for X, Y, and Z. Well, let me see the information you provide them. Well, we just provide them with a job description. Well, you haven't described to them what it's like now to actually live here. And I think armed with that website that you just described, that could be a difference maker, don't you think?
Absolutely. And, Columbus is such a vibrant, growing city. I've been in and out of Columbus the last 15 years. I'm not a native. I do call it home. But I've seen the growth, and I want others to see that growth. I want them to see the unique things that are here in the city.
Well, you mentioned you're not from here, but you call Columbus home now. I guess I'm just curious, though, what's amazing about Columbus to you? Like, what keeps you here? What keeps you engaged and volunteering? And describe that a little bit.
So, what's amazing to Columbus, or to me about Columbus, is that this community allows me to call it home. I'm an Army brat. I'm an Army spouse, former Army civilian. I've moved all over the U.S. and overseas. I think last count, I've lived in 20 different homes in almost 40 years. And so when somebody asks me where I'm from, I say, yes, I'm an Army brat, but I call Columbus home. And so what's amazing to me is that this community is really welcomed me in. It's welcomed my family in. My husband and I married here. We had our first baby here. We bought our house here. And so this really has become home for me.
I think that could be the flavor of this website, right? It's like how to envision yourself here, how to get connected. Because if you put yourself in other people's shoes and imagine going to another city and you did it, 20 times, can be a little lonesome. So, when is this website going live? What's it going to be called, and how can people get kind of linked into it?
But we are on track to launch January 2020. We're working with a local public relations firm, Yala, and what we ask is use it and be an advocate for the site. It's amazingcolumbusga.com, and it really highlights what is amazing about Columbus. And so what we ask is that you utilize the site, you share the site with employers, employees, your colleagues, your peers, and there's really so many unique aspects to it. So it's not just for the talent seeker, it's for the talent that is looking to stay here, to remind themselves what is amazing about Columbus. It's also a great tool for educators, and so it's a vital link between the students, the student population that's here, as well as connecting them to the employers. And then finally, if you're an HR professional or you're posting a job, we ask that you use the link, amazingcolumbusga.com. Put that in your job posting or use it in your signature block. So that as you look to bring those talented and educated people here to Columbus, they can visit that site and they can see what Columbus has to offer.
Thank you, Jessica, for sharing that with us. Economic development is not just about what? Recruiting the next big company to Columbus. It's also about maximizing the potential to attract and develop and retain talented people. Economic development is also entrepreneurism. Columbus 2025 is working to fill that gap. It's another one of the 5 action areas of Columbus 2025. And Ben McMahon is with us. Ben, I remember back in 2015, you were still at Chick-fil-A, but 2015, we did the Regional Prosperity Initiative, where Columbus ranked 10 out of 10 in our peer cities in new business creation. That's bad. So it would stand to reason that Columbus 2025 is focused on supporting new business creation, and hence the action area called Enterprising Culture. So first off, maybe, Ben, I know you weren't around then, but you've been doing some of this work lately. Maybe describe some of the reasons of our sudden lack of entrepreneurism when we come from the entrepreneurism roots of the likes of Coca-Cola and Aflac and W.C. Bradley and TSIS and on, Dr. Jack Houston. What happened?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Brian, and good morning, everybody. I would argue that it's it was not just bad, but the ugly. When you're ranking 10th out of 10, and that was just for areas of providing resources. We were also well below average on amount of new jobs or employees in jobs, firms less than 5 years old, as well as self-employed people in the community. So we were at a place that I think we were just comfortable as a community. We were looking at those organizations that have come before us, and AFLAC and W.C. Bradley, and we were using that as a piece to kind of not worry about entrepreneurship. And it wasn't to say that we didn't have entrepreneurs here, because we have people like Miles that came before startup, so it's not that they weren't there. We just weren't at a place that was where our comparable cities were, and we weren't doing a good job supporting them through resources. So when you said we ranked 10th out of 10, that was for resources provided to the community, such as entrepreneurial programming, events, incubator space, mentorship programs. And so I think that we got comfortable with where we were at, and we started falling behind in that entrepreneurial aspect.
So I think we could all agree that the community should support entrepreneurism, if for no other reason, because it can bring economic growth to the region. I'd like to hear your kind of thoughts on if a company should support entrepreneurism, what type of resources are available in Columbus, specifically the Columbus region, for budding entrepreneurs?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not to say that Startup Columbus was the first resource either, because we did have resources, and we still do have resources. So we have the UGA SBDC at CSU. We have SCORE, and we have other resources that are also opening up now. We have Co-work Columbus from W.C. Bradley that's opened up recently. We have Pop-Up Town that is a retail incubator. We have Banks Food Hall that's opening up, that's a restaurant incubator space. And then we do have Startup Columbus that is trying to connect all these pieces and cultivate a thriving entrepreneurial ecosystem. And so we have these resources in place. A lot of them are actually free resources, such as the SBDC and SCORE, and many of the works that we do at Startup Columbus. So it's really more, at this point, getting that knowledge to the community and letting people and entrepreneurs and would-be entrepreneurs aware that there are people here to support them and help them and connect them with the right pieces and resources they need to get started.
What's the ultimate goal in kind of creating this ecosystem? What's the vision?
Yeah, so with creating the ecosystem, we've kind of had to take some pivots and change ourselves. Startup Columbus is kind of a startup itself. We had a vision initially, and we've really had to pivot a little bit to see where the community's at. Right now we have to build a culture because we were comfortable in these places we were at. So we have to get people excited about being an entrepreneur, taking that risk, taking a step off the deep end and hoping you can swim. So we're really trying to build a culture piece, get people excited about it. And then we want this to be a hub for entrepreneurs in not only Greater Columbus, but other areas outside of Columbus and the Greater Columbus area. We want people to come here and realize there are resources, there are programs in place, and we can be just as easy place to start your business as anywhere else.
We probably have some budding entrepreneurs in the room, probably some that are going to be watching the rebroadcast of this as well. How can they get involved?
So Startup Columbus, it's really easy. You can go to our websites or just come into the office. You just call us. Again, the majority of what we offer is free resource. We have some different programmings that does have a little cost to it, but just reaching out to me, going to startupcolga.com, coming to our office, just talking to me. And my promise to everybody is I don't have all the answers, but I have connections with a lot of different people. I send people to SBDC or SCORE all the time that they may be able to mentor them or provide more resources than I may. Connecting them to different people that are experts in intellectual property or getting capital or whatever it may be. I try to really connect them with the best resources in the town.
All right, so that's startupcolga.com.
Correct.
All right, Ben, thank you very much. We're going to wrap up this segment with a guy who who has started his own business, multiple businesses in fact, right here in Columbus, and he's working on a few more. Miles Greathouse, who grew up in Columbus, went to Northside High School, graduated from Columbus State, he's got a degree in business marketing. And in 2013, Miles and his partners opened Multitude, followed by Nonic in 2016. And this past year, he opened up Jarfly. Miles, good morning.
Good morning, Brian.
For those who don't know, Miles, what is a Multitude, a Nonic, and a Jarfly?
Well, our businesses do have unique names. One thing that was important every time we opened a business was that they have a name that there was no other business anywhere in the world named that. So that's why you've never heard the words Multitude, Nonic, and Jarfly, maybe as they relate to business before. But Multitude is a craft beer bottle shop. It has a multitude of malt beverages. That's where that one came from. And that was our very first business. And it was really important to us to do something here in our hometown. My business partners and I have a lot of hometown pride. And you don't hear it as much these days, but in 2013 when we started, you heard a lot of people say, oh, Columbus is boring, or I want to move somewhere else. And there was a little bit of that thought in mine and my business partners' heads too, where we wanted to maybe move somewhere else. And we said, you know what, this is our hometown. How do we make the next generation not say that? And we're like, maybe we can start our own business, and maybe our business will make it a little bit easier for the people that come after us to say, hey, I've got hometown pride too. I want to stay in Columbus and do something. So that was really the idea behind Multitude to begin with.
So Multitude, which starts out as a bottle shop on Broadway, and then you guys said, hey, it's so easy to start a business in Columbus. Let's do another one, and another one. We'll get into the nuts and bolts of starting a business in Columbus, but talk a little bit about now you said we got to start a restaurant bar. I mean, we're not just talking about selling beer. Now we're getting really into it. What crazy dream did you guys have about that? Some people would say that would be kind of crazy.
Yeah, it absolutely was crazy. There was never really any game plan for our businesses, and that's something when I talk to other people that want to start a business is, you know, a lot of people say, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And we say, like, we don't know what business we're going to be in next year. You know, if it's the same one, if it's a growth of an existing one. But when Nonic came about, we had Multitude, and we loved it, and it's absolutely a beer business. But what's really great about beer and craft beer in general is it's all about the people that you enjoy it with, and the camaraderie that it creates. And you go and you find this cool new beer, and it's a talking piece. And what was happening at Multitude was we were providing the beer for people that had these experiences around, but we weren't able to see any of these experiences because they were coming to us, they were buying it, and they were taking it home. And we were like, what if we created a place where they could enjoy those beverages and we could be a part of those interactions and we could see those interactions happening. And then that's really where the idea for Nonic came from, was like, let's create that place. You know, it's got to be in Uptown. That's, you know, we feel like Uptown is the heart of Columbus. And we ultimately were able to get a building and open the bar. And now 7 days a week, we see those interactions happening around. You know, beer is absolutely the common theme, but we're able to see that be a part of those interactions all the time, and now at Jarfly as well.
I'm curious, and we'll go back to Jessica for a second. So, I mean, these stories that to attract talent or someone who's an entrepreneur to Columbus.
Absolutely. So a big part of the site is weaving in these testimonials from Columbus. You know, people who started the businesses. Where do I go on a Friday night or a Monday through Sunday night? So absolutely great stories for the site.
Yeah. I want to talk just a little bit because we want to learn a little bit from you, Miles. And this whole thing is about trying to figure out processes and structures and how we might be able to do things better or different. Talk a little bit about your experience in starting a business in Columbus. I've helped companies start businesses in Columbus, and I've got stories of good and not so good. What has been your overall experience in starting a business in Columbus, from ease of navigation?
When you told me the name of this program was The Good, Bad, and the Ugly, I thought about it, and the good is obviously that my business partners and I, all relatively young, we were all in our 20s when we got started, was that we've been able to successfully start and run 3 businesses in Columbus. And I really overall have extremely positive things to say about working with the city, whether it's the regular certification, licensing, and permitting process, or whether it's navigating some of the more difficult stuff, which are things like ordinance changes, which we've been fortunate to be a part of a number of ordinance changes since we got started in 2013. It started in 2013 when Multitude opened. We were serving this draft beer to people. We were trying to sell this draft beer to people, and they couldn't sample it beforehand. So we worked with the city, and they passed something that allowed people to be able to sample the beers in Multitude, which at the time was unheard of, to be able to do any kind of consumption in a retail to-go store. Beyond that, in 2014, we worked with the city on distance requirements between alcohol licenses. And it was a really common sense change, but it was difficult because ordinances are long and there are a lot of state laws to navigate, and you've got to look at every particular neighborhood and business sector that can evaluate. But it was a common sense change that changed it basically from property line to right-of-way of entrance to right-of-way of entrance. So you didn't have a situation where you couldn't open, a bar, pub, or alcohol retail store in a strip mall that was right-of-way through the woods, too close to a house or a church or something like that. And then most recently, we've worked with the city on an on and off-premise hybrid ordinance that will allow you to actually consume beer or wine inside Multitude, as well as be able to purchase it to go. And that was tough. And when you talk about the bad, I want to stress that in our workings with the city, I really have nothing but good things to say. And we've ultimately been able to achieve our goal of making it easier to do small business in Columbus. But from a business owner standpoint, you absolutely always want things to be easier. And I think that, and this is probably true for any sort of legislative body, that you want to be as conservative as possible and try to limit the amount of things that can go wrong. I know in my business, we try to think of every single problem before it happens. We can't always do that, and sometimes we think of problems that don't actually exist. So you do always want the legislative body that you're working with to be as flexible and progressive as possible, so as not to put a small business that's attempting to grow in a box per se. And you want to be able to take full advantage of whether it's an ordinance change or whether it's whatever it is that you're working with the city. So.
Well, I appreciate you sharing your thoughts on that. I too have had nothing but positive experiences with any of the staff on the planning and zoning side, led by Deputy City Manager Pam Hodge. The one thing that I might suggest is as a takeaway is the logistical challenges sometimes related to where you get I'm getting in the weeds now, but where you get a certificate of occupancy and a business license. People who are from Columbus, they don't understand that one thing happens in one building and another one happens at some other building that happens to be in a different part of town, and that can be a challenge. And I know we've talked about that internally, and they're looking for some ways to fix some of that. So maybe to close, maybe 4 takeaways. One is to really get engaged and get involved in some of the things that we've been talking about this morning. Find ways to be a positive influence on other people, and find ways to find joy in this work that we are all doing collectively to make Columbus what we all think Columbus could be. Let's focus on strategic doing, as I called it. Focus on the future state. Let's find the things that we can do to have the biggest impact. As Jason Cuevas, who was our chamber chairman with Georgia Power, recently left us, but as he would always be off to say, let's find ways to turn up the volume on stuff that we're doing. I've reminded Jason that turning up the volume often takes money. We haven't talked a lot about funding this morning, but I think there are a lot of ideas on the table that with the proper infusion of funding, we can turn up the volume. Three, I think that we have to remember that when we toss around the word talent, we're talking about people and people that have names. And these people have connections and they have contributions to make. And so let's not lose sight of that. And the fourth is don't view economic development as recruiting the next big company to Columbus. Let's drive growth as we race for talent and innovation and place. And Columbus, Georgia, we do.
Amazing.
It sounds like it, doesn't it? Columbus, Georgia, we do. Amazing. Awesome, I love it. All right, thank y'all.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce to you, please, Mr. Peter Bowden, who is the president and CEO of Visit Columbus, Georgia Convention and Visitors Bureau. Peter has been with the Convention and Visitors Bureau for what, last 20 years? Seems like it. Probably seems longer at times, I'm sure. As you can see on here, though, Peter has extensive knowledge and extensive experience in dealing with conventions and making sure that we put our best foot forward to the rest of the world from the community. Peter has led the work on 2 citywide branding campaigns, with the latest being Columbus 2025. He has rebranded the Convention and Visitors Bureau, now called the Visit Columbus, Georgia. And Peter and his team have recently rededicated a complete renovated visitor center to Uptown Columbus. Columbus is extremely fortunate and privileged, I think, to have Peter on our team because Peter makes sure that folks know about us, that the good things we have to offer and what we can provide to folks to make this their home as well. So without further ado, please welcome with me Mr. Peter Bowden.
All right, well, great. We're off to a good start because my technician is missing in action, so we'll see what happens in a moment. Anyway, good morning. Hope everyone's having an amazing day. And I'm sorry I couldn't be with you yesterday, but I will tell you that what you all have invested yesterday and today is truly remarkable, because not many cities will turn inward and look at itself, take a long, hard look at the good, bad, and the ugly, and learn and hopefully figure out how to be better as a community. So again, your investment over the past couple of days is truly amazing. So I want to talk about branding for a few minutes. And what is a brand? And here he is. Thank you. Most of us, I think, when we think about branding, we think about things like Coca-Cola, or we think about Nike. We think about North Face. It's coming. We're getting there. And of course, everyone, we're good. Except now the clicker is not going to work. So if we could advance to the Apple logo, please. There we go. All right, thank you. And of course, everyone recognizes this, Apple computers. These are not brands. These are icons and symbols behind a company brand. So it's really a trick question when we talk about what branding is. Branding is not a logo. It's not an identity. It's not a product. What branding is it's about perception. It's about an emotional connection to a product or service, or in our case, a community. So Columbus took on the challenge several years ago to hire a firm that specialized in research-based community branding, and the process included 4 distinct phases. And there's a lot more to this, and we'll get into that in just a moment, but 4 distinct phases. It's the learning process about Columbus. This team came into Columbus to learn about us. They collected tons and tons of data. Then there's the design work, which a lot of us attribute to what a brand is, the design work. And then, of course, the engagement and rolling out the brand message. So 3 years ago, as part of Columbus 2025, Columbus embarked on a rebranding program, and for over a decade, if we go back in time, the community brand of what Progress had preserved, I hope a lot of you recall that. This brand, that original brand, community-wide brand, worked very hard for the city. There was nearly a 93% recall on that original brand for the city. It was by our locals, by businesses, by visitors, et cetera. But a lot had changed, and so we looked at ourselves and we said, okay, we had the war on terror, there was the recession, a lot had changed with Columbus itself. So we had the Columbus Challenge, the Infantry Museum, Whitewater, and of course the list of all of our successes and challenges and so forth over time. So we said, okay, it's time to re-look at branding to see what was still relevant. So the branding team, and this is a picture of 3 of the guys on the branding team. For nearly a year, this team conducted, and others, a part of their company, conducted interviews with community stakeholders, and they conducted focus groups with people in the community. They interviewed folks at Fort Benning as well. 502 community surveys were completed, and 325 attitude, awareness, and perception surveys were completed by residents of Atlanta, Macon, and Montgomery, because we wanted to find out what people were saying about us. There was, of course, a comprehensive review of Columbus's digital footprint, and that's all the assets that lived online at the time, and the message and the story, and we've heard a little bit about that today, about storytelling. And then there was community segmentation profiling as well, and there was even a survey of the Chattahoochee Valley area. We wanted to make sure this was not just focused strictly on Columbus, but we wanted to look beyond and all the counties that we work with that touch us, and we all depend on one another for success. So the branding process includes 8 categories called the brand identity. And these are the houses or the compartments that impact branding. They're business, tourism, culture, heritage, education, civic leadership, the people that live and work in Columbus, and of course, the quality of life assets that we think about. So if we look at the word cloud, these are some of the organizations or elements that make up that brand identity. Of course, this list is certainly not complete and never will be, because as this process of branding Columbus, branding our community continues to evolve, so do the participants that become a part of that process. So the research asked participants, what do you see when you think of Columbus? And this is just the next few slides. I'm going to give you just partial list of what was talked about. So they were the folks that were surveyed were asked, what do you see when you think about Columbus? And of course, the response was Uptown, Broadway, the Riverwalk, the River Center, Whitewater, and so forth. When asked, what are the sounds that you hear? What do you hear when you think about Columbus or you experience Columbus? And again, the respondents told us the river, live music, concert series, River Center and the Springer Opera House, and the productions that they provide the community, the Columbus Symphony, one of the oldest symphonies in the country, and of course, blues. The team asked those folks that were being surveyed, what are those physical or emotional experiences about Columbus? What do you feel when you think about Columbus? And again, top of the list was the river, Whitewater, rafting, Broadway, the historic district, museums, riding bicycles was part of that response. And then we were asked, excuse me here, we're getting ahead of ourselves, what are the flavors are experienced? And it's all about food when you think about a destination or when you think about a community. And the respondents told us about local restaurants. And again, this is from the folks that live here and know about Columbus. Leviathan Bay, Epic, Mark Jones's restaurants, Mabella's, the Loft Minis, Dinglewood, Barbecue, and of course our famous Scramble Dog. And then finally, what do you smell? What is that last sense that you think about when you experience Columbus. And of course, again, barbecue was one of those things. The botanical gardens, peanuts, fresh air, flowers, magnolias, and again, local restaurants. I think our test audience were focused on strictly on food, it seemed like. So from all this research and all the conversations with locals and customers and would-be customers, this process turns into brand truths. And the brand truths are the absolutes about Columbus. These things that are never changed, these are always a part of this process of storytelling. And these are that Columbus's relationship with the river and outdoor activities drives its exciting reputation today. The aesthetic charm and cultural pride of Columbus centers around its downtown. The influence and activity of the military, and we heard it from our military representative today, and Fort Benning has felt and impacts the identity of Columbus. There's no question about that. There's the relentless pursuit of economic and cultural progress while maintaining an almost unwavering stand for historic preservation has become the defining public and private mantra of our city. And then finally, the final brand truth is Columbus's daring entrepreneurial can-do attitude is strong and has been a driver of some of today's biggest and most reputable successes. So from this, we see 4 specific strategies emerge to create the brand platform. Remember, we've got our research and the brand truths. Well, the brand platform identifies our target audience, who we're going to tell this story to. The target, these are the people that are seeking the excitement and inspiration of renewal. Next, where and what Columbus is. Well, Columbus is Georgia's second largest city and sits along the Chattahoochee River. So we have geography that puts us where we are. So what do we promise as part of our brand story? We're an urban and outdoor environments encourage discovery and honors the past. So, and that leads us to the final piece of it. What is the benefit of all of this? The benefit is there's an adventure around every turn. So you begin to see that this city begins to sound like a pretty cool place to live, work, and play. So what is a brand story? The brand promise, the brand platform, help shape and craft this story that we are going to talk about in just a few minutes. It's that emotional connection. This is what branding, when I started earlier, this is what branding is really about, is what is that emotional connection to our city? The brand story is meant to unify our community. It defines our personality. It's the aesthetics of the place we call home. It's the way we talk. It's what we talk about, and it's what we care about. And that's critical in telling that story and in shaping that story. And I'm sorry, I know that I can barely read this with my glasses, but our brand story is what's on the screen today. This is the brand of Columbus. And what this says is that everyone is familiar with the it cities of the South. They're on every list. Columbus is ready to break into that list. We're not a backwater. We're a city of 200,000 strong. Our downtown, our uptown, thrives day and night. Brick and steel buildings of the past now make up our renovated 21st century skyline. Instead of an urban river you're afraid to touch, our Chattahoochee invites you in. Our arts and cultural entertainment surprise. Our world-class museums inspire. Outdoor activities abound. Government and business work together to make it happen. We believe in big, bold ideas that impress while revering our past. That's why around every corner, Columbus proves we do amazing. This is what branding is about. This is the perception. This is all this research that took place over 12 months shaped this statement about Columbus. This is the Columbus brand. So let's get to the design piece, the thing that most of us think about when we talk about branding, which is the development of the logo. We looked at a local inspiration. I hope most of us can recognize from this slide the Frank Martin pedestrian bridge. This is a symbol that over time has become a part of that that represents connectivity for our city. The iconic canopies on the arbors showcase Olympic gold, Coca-Cola red, military green, blue for the blues of Ma Rainey, read of the historic brick buildings that we have repurposed. And you would be surprised how many people are amazed how Columbus has saved all of its original structures and repurposed them. A lot of communities, a lot of people that come to this city to look are almost mournful that their towns have torn down their historic structures. So this is something that is truly iconic for our city. So from that, and we've seen this throughout the last couple of days, we have arrived at Columbus, Georgia. We do amazing because we do amazing public-private partnerships, we do amazing art, we do amazing redevelopment, we do amazing whitewater. Our amazing story goes on, and there's something that always can help tell that and complete that statement. And if we look at the logo, the icon here, the blocks, those colored blocks represent the skyline of the city. And the name is composed, Columbus, is composed of a multiple typefaces that illustrate surprise, a variety of experiences, and most importantly, in my opinion, they represent the people, the diversity within our community that make up Columbus. We do amazing because we are amazing, quite frankly. So here are some examples of how the brand has been adopted. The Development Authority, Choose Columbus, the Chamber of Commerce, of course. My organization, Visit Columbus GA, we interpreted the logo and came up with our Sunburst C, again representing the blocks, pulling those blocks off of the Columbus brand, incorporate it. And then, of course, on the flip side of our card, we also proudly display the original icon and We Do Amazing logo as part of our messaging so that our customers know and connect us back to the city. Of course, the work's not done, and this is our action plan, and this is believe me, this is a synopsis of what's currently underway. The first block represents the branding team. That's in place. Our marketing is underway, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. And we're engaging others within the community. We're creating a sense of place because branding just simply doesn't stop because the research team left and they gave us a binder like this in order to roll out and to tell our story. This branding continues to go way beyond just the development of the logo or the story because we need to tell our story as a community and as a people over and over, again and again. Here are some ideas that are part of this communication plan. As you can see, ways to incorporate the brand might be to put the icon or some treatment of the icon on your business forms, on packages, on signage, using voicemails when someone calls to leave a message or someone answers the phone. I say, I hope you're having an amazing day. Or those are ways that you can adopt the culture, if you will, of branding as part of telling the story for our city and the community that we have chosen to live, work, and play. I mentioned a moment ago about marketing. Well, phase one took place right out of the gate, and the team worked in capturing some amazing places. And we wanted to turn inward because we had to get adoption of the brand. We had to make sure that the community bought in and adopted that culture and understood what we were talking about when we were talking about branding. So phase one was about amazing places, and again, this is just a couple of snapshots of what we're talking about. South Commons, where we just recently entertained international softball again, an amazing event. The Gateway to Fort Benning, public-private partnership, fantastic, amazing investment. Redevelopment of our riverfront, again, you guys had dinner at the Powerhouse last evening, extraordinary facility. Something simple like playgrounds. Again, amazing testament to our community. The Chihuly exhibit at our Columbus Museum, one of the largest museums in the Southeast, right here in Columbus, Georgia, and we are fortunate to have an exhibit like that at our museum. And of course, the Infantry Museum, fantastic structure. You would not be surprised how many times when someone sees the structure that comes out of the ground as they approach that facility, how amazing it is. And I mean, I keep using the word amazing, but these customers, these visitors, these travel writers, these clients that we entertain as a city, they're always using that word when they see and experience our town. All right, so phase two. We spent a year scouring the city and looking for those unique stories that probably are not heard on a day-to-day basis. But we wanted to capture those and elevate those. And using social media, we wanted to tell those stories. And again, I want to just show you a couple of our examples of this, of what this means. And so the first one is a couple young ladies who are aged well beyond their years. And we'll see what happens. Technically, there we go. Thank you.
We have signs in our school that say like no bullying, stuff like that. People don't listen to that.
It's like if someone's saying something to you, just let it roll off your back. You know, just don't let it get to you. But it's kind of hard sometimes, especially because, you know, how people are now. Just mean, just plain out made for no reason.
And don't listen to what other people think, except if it's a good thing. If it's a bad thing, then just tell yourself that you're beautiful and that you don't have to listen to them.
You're beautiful, just the way you are.
These two ladies were talking about bullying as our young population, and this was a random conversation. We just, you know, the team went out and pointed the camera at these guys, and with almost no coaching, they told that story. So again, a fantastic experience. And then our next one is again a fantastic story, a little longer, but we have to play it because it's truly amazing.
January 26, 2009. And I was gone for about 9 months to truck driving school. Prison.
As far as a dad, like a father figure, that's something that I never had before. I've never been able to, I guess you could say, like, really trust a man.
I got a good mom and all that, but like, I ain't never had no dad. My dad never even bought me a pair of shoes before. I want to be just like my big brother, so I looked up to him. When I seen him, like, he was selling drugs and all that, and he got money fast off that, I ain't had nobody else to look up to. And when he died, I just was like, I'm tired of that. So, and I'm not trying to be in jail my whole life. So I'm just trying to do something positive.
Everybody calls me Pops. That's someone that you can trust. That's someone that you can depend on. That's someone that you can lean on. That's someone who is a secret keeper. So when the young people do call me Pops and they come to me with their problems or whatever going on with their life, it's a serious badge of honor. And so every day I try to uphold that badge of honor by being the best pop father I can possibly be.
I remember when I first met Riley, he kept telling me, I got your back, I got your back. And I'm like, yeah, okay. But once I like realized like this man got my back, I wish every girl could have that. Cause it's like your dad has to be your first love. If you want to know how to like love a man or love somebody the right way, your dad has to be your first love. And my dad is my first love.
Yeah, he told me, I know you didn't have a dad, like growing up. And he said, I'm gonna be your dad. And I ain't gonna lie, like, I almost started tearing up. Cause like, I ain't like, you know, I'm a dude, but I ain't saying I want a dad, but I love to have one. Cause when I have a problem with something or I'm going through something, I can't really go to nobody like that.
That's who they are. He was like, your dad passed, you my daughter. I'm like, bet. She said, your mama not here, I'm your mama. Bet. So, and I respect them just as that they gave birth to me.
Raleigh, he had a program that really didn't even exist, where he let kids come in and sweep, and he give them donations. It was like a rescue. It's a place of safety and refuge for them. And so we continued doing it and bringing kids in and letting them fold towels, sweep, shampoo, teaching them like basic techniques of cutting hair, all these things, and it was growing with them. So we just made it legit and got our 501c3 and started Overflow Outreach, which we have the mannequin house, sweepers program, and all that good stuff.
Overflow is sort of like, it's an unofficial, official country club. You work a 40-hour week, you come up here, you know, you're gonna get the latest news, you're gonna do a little gossiping, you're gonna do a little barbecuing out front, get a haircut, and just kind of like wind down amongst family and friends. Being military, everywhere I go, I never really have any relatives. And so Overflow became like an extended family for me.
With all of our kids, regardless of what they're going through, if they're single parent, they got mom and dad at the house or whatever, we are bringing in love, to love our kids and our community, to show them a better way, not just entrepreneurship, but being a good citizen, a good humanitarian. Show somebody else that same love and that respect that you would want somebody to show you at all times, because we're not promised tomorrow.
If we don't teach them great work ethics, then the street is going to teach them something else. And see, they can be here and they can be working, they can be learning a skill, they can be doing their homework. We just want you to be a productive member of society. It's kind of like clay on a potter's wheel, where we can mold them and shape them into being the young men and women that will be proud of who they are in society.
And I tell them all the time, you're gonna be very successful. You gotta make sure that you come here like you're supposed to on time. Stop making all those excuses. Pull your pants up. Get rid of the attitude, those type of things. But reel them in back with love. You're gonna be very successful. Son, I see it. You got this.
You just have to figure out that combination. And then once you figure out that combination and they let you in, it's amazing when they let you in, because they're so talented. It's just they have to be redirected and refocused on something else. And once you become that person that can help them redirect and refocus, it just makes you so proud of a father. You just want to beat your chest like King Kong, because you know that you put something in them, and when they leave you, they're gonna be all right.
I watch them, and then I kind of like, okay, this is what I can do. This is my gift. Now I know why I'm here. I'm here for teenagers. I'm here because I can handle it, and they probably can't.
I love them kids, because they just remind me of myself, so, yeah.
Like, I appreciate everything they do for me. Like, I feel like a whole new person, and I ain't even been here that long. I feel like brand new. They really helped me change my life.
We do amazing. All right, so phase 3 is currently underway. Year 3, currently we are looking to evolve company adoption. In other words, we're looking for businesses across the city to adopt the brand and the culture of the story that we've talked about, things that you've just seen in these just 2 examples of several other films that we put together. So the team has been meeting on a regular basis, and we've been using a lot of social media, a lot of appointments have taken place. And the idea is to give these companies the resources they need. And we heard a little bit about that from the panel earlier today, about taking those resources that already exist and giving those tools to companies as they reach out and begin to recruit and make a difference for our community. Talked about the website. Originally, this website was set up to tell why Columbus was branding itself and the process that we went through to do this. Well, now it is being refreshed, repurposed. This is the landing page for that. And it is that portal that collects all of these resources, the toolkit, the branding toolkit that has all the artwork, the color treatments, and branding standards, examples of how organizations can use it through social media, through their traditional advertising means, links to video, photography, and then, of course, other websites that already exist that can be plugged into existing company websites to help build and convey that message and the vibe of Columbus. When it comes to public relations, we began this campaign, my organization began this campaign on behalf of the 2025 branding and cohesive identity. Since January of this year, there have been 278 articles published about Columbus. with a readership of 379 million. With an earned media value, and what that means is that if we had to buy those same column inches, it would have cost $3.8 million to get that reach, that type of reach. I hope all of you, and if you haven't, be glad to share the link with you. I hope everyone has seen the cool cat story that originally appeared in Forbes magazine. That has been picked up in 89 other publications since it was released a couple of weeks ago. And then, of course, there are also the accolade types of stories that we all want to be a part of. Georgia's most distinctive food and dining offerings, the best places for outdoor lovers, getaways from Atlanta. 65 articles of that type have been published since the beginning of January about our city telling the story. All right, so what are the challenges? What is the bad and the ugly? Well, there's never enough money. I mean, we just put that out there. There's never enough money, but adoption is important. Awareness is important. Engaging the media is important, which has been extremely hard because of social media has changed how we work with our traditional media partners. But that is something that the team has taken on, and they continue to push that and work with our local media. Sharing and capturing authentic experiences is also a challenge because we saw some examples of individuals or companies, organizations that are doing amazing things. Well, we need to lift those, we need to capture those stories, identify those people, and lift those up. And again, the team is working very hard to do that and using all sorts of platforms, again, to engage in telling that story and leveraging that. Branding is more than just a logo. It's about telling the story, and it is the responsibility of everyone in this room to tell that story. You never have to use this Columbus, Georgia, we do amazing. That's just the icon associated with Columbus. The most important part that you can do as an individual, as a company, an organization, whatever it is that rings your bell is to tell the story about our city, why we're an amazing place. And we've heard examples all morning long about, and it's interesting, one of my colleagues said, it's interesting how people use the word amazing without even thinking about it. It's not forced, it's just a natural thing. And I understand that you guys have already seen this, but I just have to play a little bit of this. This is our amazing film, but I just want to play just a portion of this to remind you why Columbus is amazing. Maybe not. All right, well, this is the thing where someone asked me earlier today, where is that road that truck is running down? And I've got to find that out. But anyway, you guys saw it yesterday when we kicked off this two-day experience. It's about the amazing place that Columbus is. So I'll wrap now, and if there are questions, I'll be glad to take those. Yes.
Just a simple question, please. On your film there, slide there, you said population 200,000. Is there, don't you mention the metro population because a lot of businesses are here because people come from across the border from Alabama.
Yep.
And smaller towns. So you really have a town of 200,000, which doesn't sound like a lot, but you can compare it to a city much bigger because of your metro.
Absolutely. And it's so interesting because the original study had a much larger number, and then we were asked to bring that number back more focused on Columbus. But you're absolutely right. I mean, it's not just Columbus and the Valley Partnership. It is all the counties. The East Central Alabama is part of this experience as well. So you're absolutely right. It involves a lot more people than just the 200,000 that was on that slide.
Other questions?
Yes.
I went looking for the brand standard information about 2 weeks ago, and the website's not active yet. When is that going to be up and available so we can get onto these images and things?
We just met on that last week and had that conversation. It will be a process, but in the meantime, I'll be glad to connect those assets to you so that you can have the brand standards and the photography. All those things already live. It's just going on behind the back end of the website to rebuild it. So I'll be glad to connect you with that. Hopefully by the end of the year, but it's, as you can heard today, it's a pretty complex process, and the team is working really hard with all the other programs that work in 2025 to make that comprehensive.
Anybody else?
Peter, what are currently this year the top 3 most visited destinations in Columbus?
I guess you would have to ask, it depends on who you ask. I would say,
CEO of the Visitors Bureau?
Yeah, okay, we could do that. I think that what we would say is that obviously the river has always been our connector. Even before Whitewater and the zip line, as the Riverwalk was being built and planned, that was one of probably our biggest attraction, and it's what's revitalized downtown, uptown. So it's going to be the river. From a numbers perspective, it's probably Fort Benning. They report almost 400,000 visitors a year. The Columbus Museum, 60,000 visitors a year. And then it just goes beyond that. I mean, and I think that's what makes Columbus unique, particularly from our perspective when we sell the city, is that we don't have just one thing that people are into. We can be a lot of things to determine on what their interests are: art, music, culture, history, those kinds of things. So we can be a little bit of everything. We actually promote Columbus as an adventure destination, and then we go a little bit beyond that to describe or to redefine what does adventure mean. And again, adventure could be bike riding or what you think of Whitewater, but it could be food, it could be music, it could be just about anything that someone has a specific interest in. And that's what our clients are telling us now, is that they love coming to Columbus, and these are people from Atlanta. They love coming to Columbus because they can have the same kind of experience without the hassle, and they can get here a lot faster and a lot easier than trying to go somewhere else in the Atlanta area, which is, again, an amazing story for us. Does that help? All right.
All right.